Lepore, how about these Montreal Canadiens?
How about them, Anthony Bruno?
This team, I mean, if you look at the standings right now, I believe they are third last in points percentage.
Okay.
They are.
Well, they
third
were
last.
the first team to get knocked out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, this team, I mean, I can do a 3-hour podcast literally solo, just ripping into the Montreal Canadiens and how they went from going to the Stanley Cup final to being terrible.
Only 3 hours, Bruno.
I will refrain from doing that. But this team, Lepore, under Martin St. Louis, has been pretty solid.
Yep.
I'll just go over the numbers real quick. In 20 games under St. Louis, the Habs are 10-7-3 with a +2 goal differential. And the biggest thing that has happened for this team has been the resurrection of Cole Caufield.
Definitely.
In 20 games under Marty St. Louis, Caufield has 13 goals, 11 assists, and 24 points. He has looked great. So, I mean, what are we thinking about this team right now? Because they're still obviously bad. Only Arizona and Seattle have a worse points percentage right now than the Habs. But pretty positive, honestly, to see how this team has responded under St. Louis and to see how good Cole Caufield has been playing, who was one of the favorites to win the Rookie of the Year heading into the season.
Yeah. It's nice to see for Canadiens fans because, I mean, let's face it, it wasn't very long ago that there was nothing good happening in the land of the Montreal Canadiens. In comes St. Louis, a guy everybody likes. I love Marty St. Louis. I absolutely loved him as a player. I love his personality. I loved him in interviews. Hockey player's hockey player, as they used to say in the old days. So there's that thing. You're kind of rooting for St. Louis to look good in Montreal and do well with the team. He's definitely excited them. And what these things point to when there's this kind of turnaround, and you often see the turnaround with the new coach, because it's just a breath of fresh air. It's a different voice or whatever cliche you want to use. How bad must Dom Ducharme have been for this team to be where they were at earlier in the season? And I think it's even safe to say, like, I don't think this is a hot take when I say Ducharme cost Caufield the Calder. Like, and I know the pace he's at right now makes no sense, and he wouldn't have done that all season. But you look around the league, and I think you mentioned before he was the favorite going in. I mean, Caufield, I would bet, would have won the Calder had Ducharme not started the season and St. Louis started the season. But it's positive stuff for Montreal. They look happy. We say on this show all the time, when you're going to the rink unhappy, you're gonna lose. And that was Montreal. You look on their faces, their body language before the game started under Ducharme, bet against the other team. Now, here's this team playing for nothing, and you can say that's benefiting them because there's no pressure. But you look at the enthusiasm on their bench with their coaches, them celebrating goals. I mean, it's fun. They're having a good time, and they're playing well. So St. Louis, I mean, he's still interim, right? And the job's going to be his if he wants it, or that's what everyone's assuming. So at this point, I can't really see him not becoming the head coach, or that would suck for Montreal and Montreal Canadiens fans if he didn't become the head coach, because what he's done is impressive. And it gives optimism going into next season, because again, let's face it, a short time ago, we even looking into next year wouldn't have been thinking very much of Montreal. The way St. Louis has turned this around, and if Montreal's aggressive and the way they've cleaned up things quite considerably, if someone said, okay, Montreal's fighting for a playoff spot next year, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's fair. I still think this team is, I don't want to say far away, but I still think they have a lot of work to do to actually returning to relevance and a team that can consistently compete for a playoff spot. But It's been all positives under Martin St. Louis. I just don't like how this team has handled the Cole Caufield situation. You go back to last year's playoffs, he was a healthy scratch to begin the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, they're just, again, Montreal got to the Stanley Cup final. So you could say all the moves they made worked out, but I believe there was a couple of occasions where he was a healthy scratch in the playoffs until they finally came to their senses and realized, oh my God, he's our most dangerous offensive player.
Yeah.
And who cares that he's only 20 years old? We need this guy in the lineup. And then it goes into this season. Obviously, the team was terrible the first 4 months of the season. And Cole Caufield was struggling big time. It seemed like the team had totally checked out. Dominic Ducharme, just wasn't getting the job done. Caufield gets sent down to the Laval Rocket. I believe he only had like 2 goals in his first 39 games.
Oh, people were giving up on the kid. It was bad.
It was terrible. Just the way that they've had, like, let this guy play. He's clearly good enough to be an NHL regular. For them to be screwing around with him and sending him down and not instilling this kid with confidence, not putting him in the right situation to succeed, I just thought was completely bizarre. And now it seems like he's in the perfect situation where St. Louis has a ton of confidence in him. They're playing him with the players he should be playing with. He's playing on the first power play unit. Look, the guy's got 13 goals in 20 games under Marty St. Louis. The confidence is back. There's a reason he came into the season as one of the top 2 favorites to win the Calder Trophy. So that's the biggest thing to me. It seems like St. Louis has put this team in a great spot moving forward, just even with their mentality heading into every game, because it's easy for a team that's this shitty to just be checked out and to mail it in for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. And they've rallied around him. And again, the biggest thing is the play of Cole Caufield.
Yeah. Hockey's weird, man. How like mental it is, and how I don't want to say a small change, like a coaching change, but it's essentially the same lineup. Like, what happened? And I'm not saying they've done a full 180, but again, there can be optimism now for Montreal Canadiens fans, and maybe they end up with a first overall pick, or even if it's 2, 3, 4, whatever it ends up being, and they get another great player, so it can benefit them. But yeah, why not? I mean, the division's a juggernaut. So here we are thinking that like the Sens are shit, the Sabres are shit, the Habs are shit. At least we have that. No, it seems like Buffalo's kind of turning it around. I mean, Detroit's on the up. The Sens have potential. Now we don't know what Montreal is. So, how about the best 8 teams in the division? Like, or in the conference, I should say, all come from this division next year. We'll see.
Yeah, going into next season, it's going to be very interesting to see if Detroit takes another leap, to see what happens with the Sabres, if the Habs can continue their momentum.
Ottawa has to. Like,
Ottawa has to be better.
There's jobs on the line if Ottawa doesn't. Yeah.
And obviously, a lot of those teams are probably not going to make the playoffs next season, because it's very difficult to see the Leafs, Bruins, Lightning, or Panthers all becoming that much worse in the span of one off season.
Like that much of a point swing in one
exactly.
season.
I mean, maybe one of those teams drops down, and it allows either Detroit, Ottawa, or Montreal, or one of these teams to compete for a wild card spot. But it's still going to be difficult considering how good the top of the Atlantic Division is.